Hello and welcome to Culture Coast. Tonight, Christopher Wilson of the Sarasota Architectural Foundation will be with us, and we'll be talking a little bit about Sarasota architecture and a weekend known as Sarasota MOD, right after this. Coast from the Arts and Cultural Alliance of Sarasota County. I am Catherine Parks, and we definitely want to give a huge thank you to our presenting sponsor who makes all these interviews with our artists possible. So thank you to Elizabeth Van Riper, who is a realtor with Michael Saunders and Company, and also special thank you to iStage Homes and Beautiful You Boutique on Hillview. So tonight, I would like to welcome our guest, Christopher Wilson. Hello, Christopher.
Hi, Catherine.
So you are an architectural and design historian.
Yes.
And you...
It's funny, isn't it?
It's a little funny, yeah, but not really. And you are a professor at Ringling College of Art and Design.
Yes.
Which is very cool.
Yes.
I mean, that's a staple of Sarasota
It
art.
It is. I saw the advertisement for Ringling College of Art and Design, and I thought, oh, Sarasota School of Architecture.
Right, exactly. So where did this love of art begin?
Love of art as a child, just, story crayons and making things, and I used to make Christmas presents for my family,
What kind of Christmas
homemade
presents?
things. One year I made something, and then on the card I said, "It's an automobile without the auto." I did. My family, my brother and sister will never let me forget that one.
That's very funny.
I made a mobile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad he explained that to me because I had no idea what he was talking about. All right, cool. So then tell me, eventually you found that buildings were kind of more interesting than the art. What did that entail for you?
So after high school, I went to a liberal arts college and studying art history. And in the lectures, I was seeing paintings and sculptures, and then the buildings came on, and I was really interested in the buildings. So my cousin, who's an architect, said to me, you want to be an architect. And I transferred schools, and I went into a professional architectural program. I graduated from that, but halfway through there, I realized, oh yeah, I'm more interested in talking about these buildings than designing them. So then I went on, got a master's degree in architectural history and a PhD in architecture history.
That's pretty fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know a lot about architectural history.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. So I know that I know Selma, your wife, she's worked with my husband, Jonathan, for quite a bit. And I know before you were in Sarasota, the two of you traveled a lot. So tell me a little bit about your experiences traveling the country.
Well, we didn't travel the country. We met
traveling the world.
We met in London.
I meant to say the world.
We met in London. She's an architect, and I was working as an architect before I went to graduate school for my master's degree. And so we lived in London together for 4 years, and we got married. And she's from Turkey. We moved to Turkey. First, we were in the capital in Ankara, and at that point, I kind of transitioned to academia. I started teaching.
And hold on, I'm going to stop you there. I know we have a picture of the family in Turkey, which we have to show.
From 14 years ago.
14. Yeah. All the children are a little older now. I hope you're showing that picture, Mark. Okay, keep going.
So at first we were in the capital in Ankara, and I started teaching at a university there.
Okay.
In English, everything was in English. And then we moved to Izmir, which is on the west coast. So in total, we were in Turkey for 13 years. And then we moved to Sarasota in 2011.
And what brought you here?
Well, I saw that advertisement at Ringling College of Art and Design. Also, my mother had retired to St. Petersburg, so it was very close.
So what's it like being in Sarasota compared to all of your world traveling?
Well, you know, everywhere has its advantages and disadvantages. So
Sure.
Sarasota is an arts town. Great. I'm sure that's why people come here. I know that's why people come here.
Well, also the weather and the beaches, but I like the arts
Yeah,
personally.
and the architecture. As I said, I saw the advertisement and I knew about Sarasota School of Architecture, and I thought that would be a good place to go.
Yeah, well, and just to clarify with our audience, in case you do not know, the Sarasota School of Architecture is a movement of
It's a movement.
thought.
Yeah, it's a movement. It's not a school.
It's not a school. Ringling College of Art and Design is a school, a college,
Right.
but it's not. Sarasota School of Architecture is a thought, which we're going to talk about in a second when we start talking about Sarasota MOD Weekend and all of the really pretty architecture here. So, as an architectural and design historian, who are you actually teaching at Ringling?
So Ringling does not have an architecture program.
Right.
They do have interior design. Most of my students are from the biggest majors that we have, which is illustration and computer animation.
Really?
Yeah, and basically, if you think about it, they take my architecture history courses and my design history courses because they want the backgrounds to be correct. I mean, I think that's why they take my courses. I hope that's why they take my courses. Yeah, so if they're doing 1930s New York, right, they have an idea of what's going to be in the background for example, 1930s New York.
I guess that is important, something people need to learn about. Otherwise, you'd think you just Google it and find out, but there's a lot more to it than that.
Yes, you need good professors.
Yeah, for sure. And then talk to me about Sarasota architecture, and I know we have some pictures that showcases a lot of our buildings from the mid-century and onward. Tell me a little bit about it.
So as you said, the Sarasota School of Architecture wasn't a school per se, it was a movement. And in one sentence, it is modern architecture, which started in the 20s and 30s in Europe, modern architecture. And
That's the Bauhaus.
The Bauhaus and in France and in Netherlands, very good.
Thank you.
It started there, and it didn't come to the United States, to North America, until after World War II. Mm-hmm. And so when it did, it was very popular, as we know. That's why it's called mid-century modernism. It's the modern architecture that came after World War II. But Sarasota School of Architecture is that architecture which is oriented to the Florida climate, because we have nice weather here and we can be outside in January. So things like large overhangs, right, to provide the shade, an outdoor space to from the rain, escape from the rain, but still be outside. Huge, just like modern architecture, floor-to-ceiling glass, but we don't want the heat of the sun coming in, so it's shaded.
Right.
Open spaces that just flow into one another instead of a bunch of boxes that are all dark and closed off. So that's just some characteristics, but it works well for the Florida climate, the Florida weather. There's just openness, a lot of light, a lot of happy spaces.
Indeed, very happy spaces. So what are so you're also the board chair of the Sarasota Architectural Foundation.
Yes.
So what do you guys do here?
So the Sarasota Architectural Foundation is a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to educate about, advocate for, and celebrate these structures, the Sarasota School of Architecture structures. We're all volunteer. We do have one paid employee, but otherwise it's all volunteer. We have lecture series, a film series. We have scholarships that we give away. But our big thing every year is our Sarasota MOD Weekend.
Which is coming up. So that's a
in,
great segue.
In 8 days.
Let's talk about Sarasota MOD, because that's why we're here also. So what is that, and how can I go, and why is it cool?
So www.sarasotamod.com will get you all the information that you need. It's 3 days of tours. There's trolley tours. There's walking tours. We have a film that we're going to show, a panel about Paul Rudolph, which we're going to talk about in a second. And our keynote speaker this year is, well, amongst many things, he used to be the architecture critic for the New York Times, is Paul Goldberger. So he's coming down and he will talk about Paul Rudolph. So Paul Rudolph was one of the major figures of the Sarasota School, probably the most famous one, because after Sarasota, he became the chairman of the Department of Architecture at Yale University. Mm-hmm. Then he had a practice in New York. He ended up building in Singapore and Indonesia and Hong Kong. And so he's a very famous architect. was interviewed earlier today. I said he's one of the top 3 of the 20th century in terms of Frank Lloyd Wright, Philip Johnson, and Paul Rudolph. And he got his start here in Sarasota.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I know, like, here he did the Sarasota High School.
Yes.
He did, what are some other?
Sarasota High School was the last building that he completed before leaving.
I think we have a picture of that as well.
Probably do. The Umbrella House on Lido Shores, it actually has an umbrella on top of it. That's why it's nicknamed the Umbrella House. The Cocoon House on Siesta Key. I think we have some pictures of these. These are all Paul Rudolph designs. A lot of houses, a lot of residential structures, but then, you know, there's also Sarasota High School.
Right.
He was architect for Riverview High School also, but not the current one. His project was sadly demolished.
Yes. But fortunately, you know, we did some, as a community, some better work restoring and renovating Sarasota High School.
Yes, and that's part of the mission of our organization, is to educate people about these structures so that they do not get demolished. So we all understand the value of them.
Exactly. So one very cool project that the SAF worked on was the Walker Guest House, which you built a replica of this guest house on Casey Key.
It's on Sanibel Island. The original is on Sanibel Island. One
of those keys in the south. And you built it on the grounds of the Ringling.
The Ringling Museum, yes.
And then
it was there for 2 years, from April 2015 until November 2017. And then we took it apart.
You took it apart, and now it is in Palm Springs.
Yes, now we've loaned it out to Palm Springs. They have a big, just like we have Sarasota MOD Weekend, they have a whole week that they do. It's called Modernism Week. They do one in October and one in February, and we shipped it out there in the summer, and they got it put together for their October 19th was when it opened up.
That's exciting.
It's very exciting. We did that project because a lot of these structures are residential structures. They're private, and you can't get into them.
Right.
So we did a house that it was on the grounds of the Ringling Museum, and it was free to enter and come inside and experience this architecture for yourself.
And one very cool thing about Sarasota MOD Weekend is you get to go into a lot of private residences.
Which are not normally open to the public. Yes.
Right. So you can go on their website and find out, you know, where and when and how you can tour these homes. And it's definitely worth it, because I know there's some really great architects working in this town.
I know a couple.
As do I. Really, really cool. So you've written a chapter in a book.
Yes. So one of the other famous architects of the Sarasota School was a gentleman named Victor Lundy.
What are some of the things that he's done?
He was, as opposed to the other architects, he was a little bit more curvaceous. So the Blue Pagoda building, it was originally the Chamber of Commerce.
Now it's the Sarasota Garden?
No. Now the Bay is using it right now. It's owned by the city because it was the Chamber of Commerce. St. Paul's Lutheran Church, Alta Vista Elementary School. So he has a little bit more expressionist kind of architecture. And there's never been, until now, there's never been a book about his whole life and career. There's been little things here and there. But now, it just came out on Tuesday. It's called Victor Lundy, Artist Architect. And you can find it, it's Princeton Architectural Press.
Great.
You can find it on Amazon too. And I wrote the chapter on Sarasota. So he was here in Sarasota from 1954 until 1960.
Do you have many copies of this book?
I have one, but I left it at home. I was supposed to show it.
I know, he had his moment and now it's gone. But fortunately, we have a picture.
Amazon.
So we know he's not making all this up, and you can look it up on Amazon.com.
Victor Lundy, Artist Architect. And my favorite Victor Lundy building, you going to ask me that?
Oh, yeah, what's your favorite Victor Lundy building?
It's the Warm Mineral Springs Motel down in Northport.
You know, I've never been to it, but I've seen pictures.
It has these kind of mushroom columns that go up and down. It's really really nice.
It does seem really nice. Yeah. I always think someone should shoot like a movie or a film there or something.
I know someone who could do that.
With a nice background. I know. Hey, guys. And then I like to ask everyone this question. What is one thing you do that has nothing to do with the arts?
Nothing to do with the arts.
Nothing to do with the arts. What's something that you do in your life?
Everything I do has to do with the arts.
Like, I don't know, do you like jog or do you?
I don't jog, no.
There's
I ride my bicycle
something.
to the college. Does that count? But that's just like transportation.
Well, the thing is, you're getting to an arts-oriented place. I think it's very laudable that you ride your bicycle to the college, and I think I'm going to accept that because more people need to do that. And then my final question, I asked you about your favorite Victor Lundy building. What's another favorite building in Sarasota, new or old?
Well, the Umbrella House, I would say, from the Sarasota School of Architecture, especially because it's just been renovated, so it has a brand new umbrella. It'll be open during Sarasota MOD.
Definitely worth a visit if you have not been there yet.
One of the best, newest buildings I like is the addition to the Siesta Key Beach Pavilion. So the original pavilion was by Tim Seabird at Sarasota School, and then Sweet Sparkman Architects have added on to it, and I like that a lot. I think they did a great job. They kind of stayed away from it and interpreted the Sarasota School for today, because we say that there are things that we can learn from the Sarasota School. It's not just these historical, museum pieces that are under glass. We really need to look at some of the things that they were doing in terms of the Walker Guest House, no air conditioning,
right.
Open up the flaps and get the breeze.
Yeah, it's getting back to the land.
Yeah.
Which is important.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Christopher, I would like to thank you so much for joining us on Culture Coast. I hope you had a good time.
I had a great time.
Great.
Thank you.
So I would like to thank our presenting sponsor, Elizabeth Van Riper with Michael Saunders and Company. Elizabeth enriches the real estate experience of her customers with her extensive market knowledge and involvement with Sarasota's diverse cultural landscape. We'd also like to thank Beautiful You for providing my wardrobe and iStage Homes for our very cool, very hip, very chic set. And our next show is November 15th, and we'll be chatting with Jared Walker, a friend of mine who is now creative director of the Circus Arts Conservatory. See you then.
Bye.